Um, Matt started as a PR person out here in Phoenix and decided he wanted to be a photographer one day, not too long ago. Damn you! Um, you got good quick, my friend, and it's been really
Yeah,
fun watching
it's
from the
the
sides.
nature of the industry. It's sink or swim pretty quickly these days.
It sure is, and new website, which I'm really nice to see. I mean, I like your other one, but this
Yeah.
one's really nice.
Yeah, it's I've been working. It's actually I think I've had this one a few years now, but it's with the Photofolio, and they allow so many different customizations on it that
Hmm.
you can really rebrand it quite often, and change up the look and the feel of it.
That's great. Tell us
Yeah,
about tell us a little bit about that long trip you did this past winter.
sure. I was just I left early December and gone almost through the end of January, the beginning of February, and I was over in Southeast Asia, trekking around between Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, and Cambodia. So much warmer places than around here lately.
When you do a trip like that, um, Matt, do you have it all planned out, or are you pretty much flying by the seat of your pants when you're over there in Cambodia?
Uh, there's a bit of both. I'm actually quite a bit more structured than probably most people are who might go on a trip, and that's mainly because I'm reaching out to clients in advance. What I like to do is usually like about twice a year now I try, or once a year if I'm just excessively busy. I like to pre-book these trips myself, and I pick an area that I've seen on a lot of stock requests lately that I've had personal requests from different photo editors come for, or honestly somewhere I just think is sort of like a trending area, and I really want to go there. So I'll plan out a rough itinerary, book and pay for it in advance myself, usually a few months ahead, and then I'll go back and tell clients I've worked with in the past, or even new ones I'm trying to solicit some work out of, and say, hey, I'm going here, here, here. What would you like? And I managed to piece together quite a bit out of these. So it's a little different than straight assignment work, and obviously quite different than advertising work. But they do well for me, and it lets me go to somewhere that's a new region I've wanted to go to, and it brings in a lot more on the back end in terms of marketability as well.
Excellent, excellent. I we're gonna take questions all through this, but we'll have plenty of time for questions at the end. This is a question that came up, and I was going to ask you: do you travel
Yeah.
with someone? Do you have an assistant that you travel with, or
It
um,
depends on the nature of the project. When I do these personal things, I usually go myself. Sometimes I do bring along a friend, a family member. Sometimes even if I can, so I can prop people in and out of different shots.
sure,
Um, it usually increases, not from an editorial standpoint, but in stock or in potential ad placements later, having someone along with you that you can throw in a photo here and there increases the dollar value of everything. If it's the lone girl walking down the beach, or someone taking a photo in a temple or checking a map, or
sure,
different situations. That stuff increases the again the marketability and the production value in different photos. So if it costs you a few hundred or a few $1,000s to bring someone along with you for a while, who has the time to do it, but you're going to make several thousand, 10,000,
sure.
20,000, 30 more in the long haul out of it, then that's ultimately what you do.
Excellent. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Do you carry model releases with you, or out in
I,
this part of the world, are you not really that worried about it? Or
I do, and more in the perspective of basically what I just talked about. Like if I'm bringing someone along in that respect. Oh, and I guess I didn't address the other part. I do bring an assistant sometimes, but it's usually that's on solely commissioned work. The personal stuff I won't. Um, but the I do bring model releases. It's for the scenarios, like I mentioned. If I have someone I'm bringing along with me, I'll have them sign things per day as we're shooting. Sometimes I try to bump into people on the road. You never know, especially in more um, uh, areas like Southeast Asia, I guess outside of Europe, where you can just bump into a lot of other solo travelers, couple travelers, things of that nature.
Sure.
It's great to have if you just meet up with someone for a day or two and you travel along with them and say, hey, you know what? It'd be great if I could take a few photos of you doing this, or this couple interacting and pretending like they're um, out in the middle of nowhere enjoying and having fun. And those things work well with, like travel companies like an Expedia or a Kayak, things like that. So I'll carry releases for that purpose and see if they're interested in doing, a swap. Hey, you get some great photos. Do you mind signing this release for me? And, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Um,
It never works if you don't ask, though.
exactly. But I don't as much with just people that I meet traveling. Um, and it's something my stock agent hounds me on, like, please, why don't you go get me a model release from that great old guy you met and things like that. And um, there's a plenty of people who do that. I just don't just if sometimes I feel like I'm taking advantage of a situation,
Hmm.
and it's you're working with some people who they obviously have very little in the way of money and different things, and I just try to avoid uh, commercially taking advantage of them. And you can bring along some money to offer them as compensation or other sort of things, but I don't know. For me, I've never been able to do that.
Yep, absolutely. I know that. Yeah, I used to carry $5 bills,
Yeah,
and sometimes when you're in far away places, $5 can go a long ways.
yeah, very true. And
Also, be dangerous.
yeah. So sometimes it can work as that. I think if when I have a guide sometimes and I'm able to communicate much better the situation,
Hmm.
that's something I'm more comfortable with. When it's something I can't communicate the idea of it quite as well, then I try to avoid that. And I like just I take my portraits for just to have nice portraits and for editorial use.
Sure. Well, you put together some stuff to share with us about that wonderful trip that you did. And by the way, I've been following along with your work since you've left the valley, and wow, you're
No, thank
really doing very well, Matt. Really
thank you.
should be very proud of yourself because you have done very well. I'm going to give this.
Yeah, you know what, and it certainly hasn't come without struggle.
Well, address that just for a second. I mean, it's one of the things we've got a lot of P52 folks on here and some not P52 folks on here. And I think when we're talking to someone like you, and my site Lighting Essentials, I'm not a consumer shooter, nor do I
Sure.
address that. I'm not talking weddings and portraits of babies and stuff. Talking up to and about guys like you.
Yeah.
It takes a while. It's
Oh
not
yeah.
like you open up a studio and start doing pregnant ladies tomorrow. It takes it takes a while to get it
Yeah.
going. So, um,
Well, I think when you hear sort of like the old cliche of, it takes 5 years to run into profit as a business anywhere, that's very much applicable to photography and possibly even quite longer than that.
well, Selena says 5 to 7 years.
Yeah, I think that can be a good benchmark, and that probably comes with a lot of hard work and talent and knowing as you're building and moving into areas, there's some very rough transitions to make it through, and some people don't make it through those.
Yeah, that's true. And you have to be so committed to it, and I also think that photographers need to develop a very high tolerance for mac and cheese. Just saying. I'm just saying.
Yeah, yeah, you can experiment with all the wonderful flavors of ramen noodle.
Exactly. Top ramen becomes a very, why spend money on burgers when you need cards and memory and a new MacBook. I'm gonna.
Yeah, I mean, I just met with a photographer this past week, or someone who was, I guess he was in a different sector before, and wanted to meet and talk about, well, what does it take to get into the industry? And he did a big worldwide trip over the course of a year and had some nice images throughout it. Um, but he was just looking, I guess, to market them more. How do I make money out of this? And is this something for me? And part of it was like, well, I think photography is cool, but I don't quite know if I like the hardship of being a photographer. And my answer to that is, well, then don't, because if it's not 100% commitment, it's just not going to happen.
And it is hard, but the point of it being hard is it's also a blast.
Oh yeah,
It's all the ramen noodles go right out the window the moment the editor says, "Oh, we've got 10 days in Brazil and we're going to run cover with your story."
yeah,
It's like,
that
"Bring on the ramen, baby. I'm good with that."
that cures all of the problems.
Yep. And then, within a couple of years, Audi's calling and they need 6 shots for an ad campaign in Europe, and you make more on those 6 shots than you made the first year you shot.
Yeah, and perhaps in the first few years.
Yeah, and that's the goal. That's the targets. Why I tell everybody in Project 52, you've got to shoot all the time. The only way to get better at what we do is to do it all the time.
Yeah, and there's sort of a bracket of building up in the industry. Like to expect to come into it and start shooting advertising work, it's just not going to happen.
Mm-mm.
It'll take years of professionally shooting, making a living, editorial stock, small commissions, and there may be some small ad work, sure, in there, catalogs, whatever your specialty is, you'll be shooting that for quite a while before you start seeing any big ad payoffs. It's just very, very high scale end photography, super competitive, really amazing talent who's working in that, and truthfully, agents who are pushing them all the time, which you're also not going to have for quite a few years.
Yeah, the agents don't need you,
And
and
not that
they
not that
don't
that's
need
a
you.
magic bullet either.
Right. They don't need you till you don't need them. When you're busy,
Yeah,
they'll
I
come and
mean,
talk to you, but when you're starving, they don't have time for you.
yeah, well, if I guess the thing with an agent is it's not there to all of a sudden silver bullet you get work. It's if you're already working full capacity
Hmm.
and you want to help bring up your, $10,000 jobs into $30,000 jobs. That's really the role of an agent. But if you're not already fully making it on your own and busy, it's not going to happen with them. They're just not interested.
Nope. I'm going to turn the screen over to you.
Okay,
Click on this little guy right here, and that should bring up something.
which little guy?
I just clicked on the screen sharing thing. Oh, no one can.
Let's
Okay, no one can see my screen. Okay, so where is the screen sharing? Is that it here? Make presenter. Here we go. Um,
pause for technical difficulties.
yes. Uh, you are now the presenter, and we should start seeing your screen.
Okay, let's see if this
And there it is.
works. All right, and is the webinar thing in the corner? I can't really see.
Um, no, it's clear.
Okay, so I guess I can go into, yeah, this last trip I took was through Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, and Cambodia. And again, this is sort of a personal trip I had organized and then pitched to different clients I'd worked with in the past. So I got a full editorial out of it with Destination Magazine, which I've worked with a few times now, and a lot of small pickups. a shot here, two or three shots here. I think there's a double page spread or two double page spreads with some other publications, but those are waiting to come out yet, so I can't say anything.
What's the
Um,
usual embargo on the magazines? Printing the day it's printed?
it usually depends on the publication. All are very different. If it's somewhere they're sending you on assignment, I've had ones that range from a 6 month embargo to others that are 2 years. And some cover only the images or similars used in publication, and others cover the entirety of the shoot.
Hmm.
So it's really wildly varied, and it's something to check in every contract you have, and keep that in mind when you're working with their rate, exactly what that covers.
Yeah, if
It's
they're going to hold me back for 2 years, I think I'm going to want a little more or
Yeah, and it
think
depends.
about it maybe.
The unfortunate thing with editorial work is their rate is their rate.
Yep.
There's really not too much you can budge on that. It's just they have what they have, and they're giving you the best they can. Sometimes if you ask for a little more, and someone just needs hey, can you grab me this chef portrait next week? And it's, oh yeah, sure. If it's something where you just want a nice shot of them outside their restaurant. Uh, I think I can go and or casually shoot a few things in the kitchen with them without having to light or anything. Okay, sure, we'll do it for that rate. But if you want a little nicer formal portrait and set more, I'd really like to bring in a light kit, and I'd like a little extra budget for that. That's where they may flex with you on some expenses like
Hmm.
that
Sure.
as to the quality of the shot. But for the most part, the rate's the rate. So you just have to understand, like, well, here's what they offer, and I'm okay accepting it for that amount or not. Um,
Yep.
Usually, the nice part about editorial work is it leads you to different opportunities. In terms of, like, I had a shoot down in Turks and Caicos, and actually, we can bring that up on the screen. So all these sort of resort images here. This was a client I had made contact with on an editorial shoot about a year and a half ago, maybe. And I had gone down there for Islands Magazine, and it was covering a sister property of theirs that they had opened up. And it was, this great little plantation style beach house, boutique setting. And then a year later, they opened up this brand new property that's it's quite massive. I mean, it's huge, and it's in this gorgeous location in Turks and Caicos, right on this lagoon offshore. And they called me up and said, "Hey, we love what you did before. We'd like to work on some more." So this was something I was actually planning to head back down to the island shortly, anyways. So we worked out a nice situation, and that editorial a year and a half ago turned into a much larger paying resort shoot.
Very cool.
So that's sort of where some editorial opportunities can arise out of
Hmm.
it. And usually I look for, once your exclusivity period is done, that can a lot of that can go into stock catalog at the end of the day as well. So, it's you look at it in sort of the long haul format, like, okay, well, it's not a great rate, but it's editorial. You don't shoot for the rate. You shoot because you're getting some nice tear sheets out of it. Uh, you can send it around to different agencies who want to see that before hiring you for anything else. They just want to see publication. And again, you can after the exclusivity's up, you can toss things into stock catalog, try to bring back a little bit more that way, relicense out to other editorials. I mean, every new place I go is somewhere I have later to respond to or a request I get via email. Do you have a photo from here or here? I said, oh yeah, here you go, and here's an extra shot we didn't use, and you pick up a few $100 extra that way, and here, there, which way, and that stuff starts adding up.
That kind of ties into a question I've got here from Jean. She wants to know what, in your case, is the biggest revenue source? Is it assignment? Is it stock? Are
It's
you
definitely assignment.
Simon?
Yeah, yeah, an assignment in the advertising arena. uh, Editorial assignment again is it can be decent pay, but it's not great pay, and I mean it's okay. But again, I said you can make some extra avenues out of it. Stock tends to bring in maybe like 30-ish percent of my revenue. Uh, it's basically like a great filler. Like between projects, as most of you know, you get a job. You may have this great paycheck one month, and then the next month is a much slower one, and the one after that you're in a flurry with a few, and again then another slow one or two or whatever. So stock sort of helps them bridge in between those project to project rates with the little passive, consistent income.
And who is your stock agent?
I work with Image Source out of
Okay.
London.
Yep.
Yeah, and I like them. They're really a great crew. That's sort of like the benefit of working with them. They're a stock distributor versus I mean, they have their own independent platform on imagesource.com, but they also distribute through Getty, through Corbis, Alame, Masterfile, I mean, all these different sites.
Hmm.
Actually, I don't know if Alame is around anymore or not, but um, sidebar. So they distribute. Um, so sometimes you end up taking a cut on your cut of your images, but because the platform of distribution is wider, it usually rounds up higher at the end of the day. And they offer much better royalty rates. And like I said, the reason I love working with them is the people they have are fantastic. Like I work with an art director in the New York office all the time, and she'll put together a great brief for me, and we discuss ideas of what works and what doesn't, and what's selling currently. So, like in some of this life section down here, like some of these shots, like this girl in the park, this was all originally just shot on stock. Like, hey, let's think of a concept and go out, hire actors usually, and it's not quite in my normal wheelhouse of travel work, especially more of this business material here.
Hmm.
But it works very well for stock purposes, and
Cool.
we find inspiration for that looking at social media and different ad placements on, what are companies like Verizon and Bank of America and things like that running in their advertising. And that's how we model what we shoot for stock is for that higher end market and not the overly cheesy, though that does still happen
Oh yeah,
occasionally.
absolutely.
there's there's a certain look to film, but we shoot for the higher end spectrum on that. So that's something where it's shooting out of your normal wheelhouse to bring in what's going to be a more appropriate revenue source in that area.
Are you are you adding video? Are you doing little video clips of these shots as well?
Uh,
I
I
saw your very first video you posted, and
Yeah,
you
yeah.
beat
So
yourself up pretty bad over it. And I thought it wasn't all that bad.
now which one are you referencing? I
The girl
can't.
running, I think she was running on the pier.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. That was actually literally something I just. It was the first time. It was this
Yep.
related
This.
shoot.
Yep.
And it was actually just something where I literally walked out with her that morning. We said we'll meet, and it was the first time I hit record on the camera. So
Well, it was
this is trial by fire is how it works. I mean, I did
absolutely.
a little research beforehand. Okay, what are the right frame rates and things we're looking at, and different stabilization techniques, and it was just going out and wing it. So
Well, the first time
it,
I decided I was going to shoot video, I was playing on the web, and then I saw like Vincent LaForette's camera setup, and I
sure.
said, "Nah, I ain't doing this."
It's an entirely different beast, and I
It's a
actually
whole.
have used it already. There's a spread I just had come out with Endless Vacation magazine on Provincetown. I did a weekender feature on Provincetown for them. I think we was there back in October maybe. and that's yeah just coming out now. And aside from the stills, they asked that I shoot video as well for their iPad edition. Um, so that was something new where videos coming into play with editorial work, and certainly on some of the ad requests, it pops up every now and then, and if you don't have a strong background in it, you're out of immediate contention. So it's growing more and more. I haven't put as much focus on it as I should, to be honest, but I'm still trying to I guess pick up some of the quality of the stills work first. So
Sure.
one piece at a time.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Very good. Very cool. Good.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. Oh, what do you do about pickpockets, muggers, and bad guys? So I have a question from someone who's going to a town that's rated as not a safe place for visitors.
Ah. Well, generally, I mean, I think this is probably a common sense issue, and it probably has been blog posts and stuff about it before. But always try to carry like your equipment in non-discreet sort of baggage or things like that. Like, I mean, if you have to be rolling some Pelican suitcases around, hopefully you've probably got an assistant to help you out with that, and maybe a little extra muscle deterrent. Um, but for the most part, if you're traveling very light, yeah, don't carry something that looks like a camera bag. Um, it just kind of avoids the immediate look of people wanting to come after you for it. But
And I think some people also make a mistake. They think that their camera bag is going to be stolen if they leave it sitting next to their chair, and in certain parts, especially the Ukrainian that part of southern Europe area,
mhm,
they'll just come up and hit you and take it. It's not a matter of like leaving it somewhere; they will
yeah,
take it away from you. So sounds like a
yeah,
tiny little mirrorless camera trip to me.
yeah. I mean, it's gonna occur, especially in certain regions
Oh.
that Um, and I've had different encounters everywhere where some places I felt really safe and others I haven't. And it's a lot of times even reverse of where you think of it. Like this last trip to Myanmar, I had places where I took a bicycle around to get somewhere in a temple zone, and I left my tripod just in the front of the bicycle cage. And I walked off for an hour and came back, and it's still there. And I just did that because after being there for 2 weeks, I felt so incredibly safe around everyone I met. Like these were just like the nicest people, and the Buddhist culture had influenced, a strong ideal of karma, so that people just don't steal there. But there's other places like, I've been in Lisbon, and within I think the first day there, I had my cell phone pickpocketed out of my pocket. So yeah, you're going to run into different scenarios, and there are going to be certain places where yes, people will, if they see you have very expensive equipment and you're possibly alone or in a quiet area, they might come up and just knock you out and take your stuff. Or I've seen things where I've heard, or at least not personally seen, but I've seen a video of someone who had their camera strap hanging around their neck, and a group of guys walked up and pretended to offer him like some sort of hotel deal, on a big piece of paper, stay here, stay here. And as they're doing that, there's another guy who grabbed his camera, hit the button to release the lens, took that and walked away. And because there's 5 or 6 of them, they
Hmm.
pass it around and you don't know where it's gone, and that's it. Goodbye lens.
Yeah,
Um,
I think there's some safety in numbers. I think that probably would be the number one thing to do is don't go by yourself if you're going in places where you
yeah,
don't know.
there's definitely some of that, try to stick with a buddy. Even when I do solo travel a lot of places, I'll pair up with people for a day and travel around, and usually it provides some more interesting opportunities too. And again, sometimes that shoots someone in a setting um,
Hmm.
opportunity. But the best protection is always insurance on that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Uh, Accidents will happen, thefts will happen. Just give it enough time, essentially. If you're lucky that it hasn't happened now, that's awesome. It's probably going to happen one day. So if you're carrying something around that's expensive enough that you're afraid to lose, yeah, definitely consider insurance and check your policies on what's covered too. Some countries are actually not covered due to specific restrictions. Especially if you have a domestic plane, obviously you're not going to be covered on international travel. But I had again in Myanmar as an example, insurance, global coverage insurance did not cover Myanmar because it's still under certain government sanctions.
Uh-huh.
So
Yep.
in that case, you have to judge, well, do I feel lucky enough to wing it, and how much is it going to hurt if I do that and something gets broken or stolen? Or you can look at companies that do cover those areas. There's always a few, especially for like conflict journalists and conflict photojournalists. I think like Reporters Without Borders is a company that covers certain areas of the world like that. Obviously, it comes at an additional cost, but
Sure.
if you're hauling around quite a bit of an equipment,
Yep.
that's something you're going to want to protect.
Yep. You go over there
You
with
know,
a D4 or a D800 and a couple of lenses, you've got to have them insured. I think it would be just
yeah,
playing with fire. And
yeah, and just the accidents happen. I've
yep.
dropped lenses before and smashed a barrel pretty good, and that's it. Peace out.
And of course, if you're in Myanmar, it's very hard to replace it at the time.
Yeah, there's for that one you try to bring redundancies in lenses. Like if you I'm not carrying around two 24 to 70s, but if I have one of those, I usually try to have like a 50 and a 35 or some coverage on the extras on me.
I haven't done international travel work, something I would love to do someday, but it's not my portfolio is not aimed that way. Um,
Sure.
but I always thought, it would make sense to me to carry a couple of the little kit lenses. Just stick them down in the bag. They're light, they don't weigh anything, and they'll get you through if the good stuff's stolen. So, you
Yeah, I
know,
mean, redundancies never hurt as long as it's not breaking your back to carry it around.
yep.
But that can never hurt to have a little extra than what you think you need if it's gonna keep it safe, and especially on assignment work, it's you have to come back with the images. There's no, I'm sorry, something broke, or something got stolen. You have to come back with the images.
Hmm. Yep. There's no,
Um,
I mean, that's one of the things I think it's an adrenaline rush for a lot of photographers. And one of the things that some people have problems with. Every time if to use a baseball analogy, every time you go to bat, you got to hit a home run. There's
yeah,
no base hits. There's no, you know, doubles. It's a home run. You got to go out and come back with the shots.
yeah.
And
There's no real strikeouts. It's sort of strikeout, game over.
yep, yep. Boy, then bad news.
Because word spreads within the industry pretty quickly. If you were to go somewhere and really botch up an assignment, you're going to find that word has actually passed around, and maybe not to everyone, but it's certainly quite a few people will hear about something that's, we sent this guy out and he couldn't bring us back anything.
Especially if it was a
Um,
spectacular screw up. Spectacular screw ups make the internet. So,
Yeah, yeah, and not always, but they'll get passed around amongst photo editors, and
absolutely.
and people change jobs quite a bit as well, which is I guess a curse and a blessing because you stay in contact with, like, say, a photo editor, and you haven't been able to get any work out of them in one publication, and then the next year they've moved to another, and all of a sudden they're ringing you up and say, "Hey, I've seen your work. I finally have the opportunity to work with you. So let's do something now." But that again, if that's you're screwing something up, those people are the ones traveling around to new places and not hiring you at all those new places.
Yep. Here's a question. When you started out, did you do more editorial or commercial? I think you actually headed right off to New York City to do editorial work. Am I right? And built it.
I had actually, it was about slightly less than 2 years since picking up a camera that I was able to make the transition into it. And I stayed in Arizona a few months before moving, I think about 4 or 5 months, and I built some clients this way. But I sort of knew New York was where I wanted to go. I was just, waiting to find, I guess, the financially right opportunity and start building some more contacts out that way. Um, so I worked a little bit here first, and mostly smaller things with some of the modeling agencies in Phoenix, where it was, shooting tests and things like that. And I'd make some contacts with catalog and clothing companies, and I did a little catalog work out here. And I sort of used that as my launch to get into New York. And I originally thought I was going to move here and try to get into assisting because I thought, there's no way I'm prepared to get out there and do this on my own. And frankly, I wasn't. Um, but I moved sort of when the bubble of the market was on its ugly turn down. And when I got here, there was really no assisting work to be had. I tried emailing a lot of people, and to be honest, I probably didn't dog it as hard as I could have. Um, but yeah, it was tough. I couldn't find much work with anyone. So I started. I had the few catalog companies and stuff like that I had worked with in Phoenix. I did a little with them out here. I had a few editorial contacts who were based out this way that just kept me in mind for some small portraiture work here and there. Um, and I built into that. And really, when I moved here, I was shooting much more lifestyle fashion work, and it had it had taken me up to a certain point, but fashion's not really passion at all of mine. I was more interested in the lifestyle side of it. I just don't care for clothes. I have no interest in fancy clothing and stuff.
That's one of those
Um,
little known secrets, I think, of fashion photography. I think a lot of guys go into fashion photography because of the girls. And really, if you're going to be a fashion photographer, you've got to just love fashion.
yeah,
It's a prerequisite.
and it wasn't quite so much the girls for me as it was that just like I liked the lifestyle, the
Right.
sunnier, the happier side of it,
Yep.
polished up because I still I love looking at fashion work and I appreciate it. Um, but again, I because I don't have the passion for the clothes themselves, I knew I had a few meetings and people just sort of cued me and they're like, you know what, you just haven't quite found your vision or your stride yet on it. Um,
Hmm.
and I can't remember what the impetus was or what started me out, but I think it was actually to build some stock work and traveling around, and I decided to take a trip to Bermuda. I self-funded it for pretty cheap. I mean, I think it was like $700 to go for a week there. Um, and I went and I shot a bunch of things and I showed it around to a photo editor the week after getting back, and then immediately she was like, "Hey, this is great. How about going to the Bahamas next week?" And it just it clicked in from there. Um, and I just slowly over the next year, 2 years, and truthfully still building more and more into it, into the travel arena and figuring it really clicked with me that this is what I like to do.
Excellent.
Within sort of a year of doing it, I knew that I was not a lifestyle and travel shooter, but travel and lifestyle.
Ah,
Um,
beautiful.
if that I guess makes sense. It just it's something I connect with much more viscerally. On a lot of the lifestyle work, I would like look around before at different photographers for inspiration and go, ah, I like what they're doing and how would I adapt this and how would I, with travel I just go out and I do it. I just know what I want when I'm going somewhere. Um, And that's not to say I'm still not looking around and seeing, oh, well, what's being published and
Sure.
what's working in the industry. And but it's very much I go out and I know the take and the perspective I have on it. I don't need to think about it. It's this is what I want out of a situation. This is what I like seeing.
That's
Um,
great. I mean,
so it
you're right in your niche.
Yeah, so it's built in that, and I've worked with a few reps and different photo editors who have helped sort of coach me along and bring in the idea of what works well in the industry and travel, what works well travel editorially, what works well in travel advertising, um, and how to build and grow the portfolio. So I spent time where now the more assignments I pick up, the more I'm able to do, and then fund. Um, personal trips that then book me again some of the work out of it that I pitch, and then other assignments out of it as well when I show it around. So, I mean, I just picked up a new editorial today based on um, a client I had been pitching for maybe about like a year or so. And it finally just, a few hours ago, it clicked in. Oh, yeah, we can do something with you. um, and that may be based on a lot of this new work that's in the portfolio. And I finally garnered a meeting with one of the big travel magazines I've been trying to get out for a little over 2 years now. So they gave me the go ahead to come and meet with them tomorrow. So we'll see how that
Wonderful.
goes.
Well, I got a question from Luke Townsend. Actually, it's not really a question. It's just Matt. So
Yeah, I know Luke well. Luke used to be out here in New York. I think he's in Kansas now. He's got some great work himself.
wonderful. Maybe we can get Luke to come on and do a show with us.
Yeah, I'm sure he'd be happy to jump on and talk.
Love to love it. The resort shoot that you showed us, that's pretty much all natural light. Aren't you a natural light reflector kind of?
Yeah, I do still light things and when needed. Usually when it's this lifestyle resort stuff, you're gonna find me much more of a natural light, just because it fits the mood. Um, when you need to bring in something that's a little more lighted, we do, and we use elements like scrims and reflection panels and all that sort of stuff. But some of it's like shooting this hammock shot. Um, this is something we were on a real tight turnaround on this one. So we had a bit of a scout day that combined into the afternoon into a shoot day. um, and they had originally wanted to shoot this hammock shot in that afternoon, but the photo, the shadows on the palm tree were really harsh then. So we went ahead and I shot a few frames of it and showed them. I said, you know what, let's come back to this on our next shoot day, which is or 2 days later. Um, so it's just sometimes it's knowing, okay, we like this frame, we like this shot. Let's come back when the light is right, and use reflection and scrim tools when you can. But
Sure.
I don't like to overproduce stuff on the travel work or light it. Um, Again, just because it usually doesn't fit the feel and look of what I do and what people hire me to do. That's not to say I don't do it. I shoot plenty of lighted portraits for
Hmm.
editorial stuff here and there. Like, if it's again, a chef in a restaurant and we want a nice smiling photo of him, yeah, we'll go ahead and light that,
Yeah, you
or
you
at
know
least
how to
bring
light.
lighting.
Yeah, you know
Yeah,
how to light. You get it done.
I I
Absolutely.
used to shoot quite a bit more beauty work when I was sort of in the lifestyle fashion
Hmm.
groove. But most of that work has just uh, sort of vanished off my site as an editing on what I do now and what I want to be hired to do.
Now, when you get hired to do this out of the country, you don't need a work permit from the countries you go to, do you?
You do, and again, this depends on where you go. Uh, if you're going to be bringing in any amount of production, if you're carrying, Pelican cases or big things through
Ah,
customs,
sure.
you are definitely going to get flagged for that. Um, so you need to apply for a work visa, and you need to have that settled all beforehand. And whether that's doing it yourself or you're working with a producer who's setting that up for you, it depends on the client and the scenario,
Yep.
and usually what they have in budget. If it's something really small where you can get in and you want a chance winging it, if you're coming in with very light stuff, maybe like a backpack or so worth of gear, um, and something that maybe just an expensive tourist would travel with, and you're renting out some equipment um, on site when you're there, and you can get away with that. Yeah, sometimes you can push it. You just never want to leave yourself in a position where you're booked, you're paid, people are scheduled in. I mean, for this, we obviously had like 20 different talent involved or something like that. We had styling, assisting. When that's on the line, your ducks need to be in a row.
Yep, yep. And the magazines will help you with work permits, won't they?
Magazines actually generally you don't need anything for. I'm traveling in light enough to most countries that um, I don't need to declare. I'm usually like a backpack and some extras for editorial work. Granted, a larger backpack, but and there's a lot of countries. I guess don't tell customs, but
Yeah.
you don't write you're a photographer on the form.
Yes.
That's the quickest way to get turned down, or
Yes.
to actually at that point need a work. For editorial stuff, it's usually is too small and it's so low key. So you're generally going in there under the guise of tourism. I'm going in as a tourist. Yes, here's my camera stuff, and you work it from there. You of course in any situation like that you do run the risk of being um, I guess turned down if they decide to check you out further. But it really doesn't happen. And again, they're not worried about sort of catching the smaller editorial guy as they are working about someone who's bringing in tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars into production somewhere and not acquiring the right
Right.
permits.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's you when I travel back and forth between Mexico, it's really never an issue, but Canada can really be a problem if you're trying to go in with a light, any kind of light,
Hmm.
a separate light, you're going to get flagged. So get your
Yeah,
ducks in a row.
yeah. Just have to make sure you know in advance these sort of things. Or again, I keep harping on Myanmar, but that's a country that's very strict on journalism. So I'm not sure if you wrote down you were a photographer going there, they'd let you in at all.
Uh-huh.
Um, but if you write, I'm going for tourism, and work from there, you're gonna be all set, to be honest.
Cool.
But yeah, you do run the risk of in situations that someone's going to come up to you and says, you know what? No, we think you're coming in here for work and you haven't acquired the right permits, so hop back on that flight on your own expense and get out of here.
Yeah, that can really take the shine off a nice day.
Yeah, certainly.
So you've got a cool project going, and this is what caught my eye. And I got a hold of Matt and said, "Oh, Matt, this is really cool. You're doing a book. You're going through Kickstarter and doing a book
Yes, let me
on
see if I can open
the
that page. There we go.
yep on the Mongolian, the nomad uh, people of Mongolia."
Yeah, and then there's different groups and sections, and this will sort of focus on one particular group. But I guess Mongolia is always. I really love Asian cultures and countries. I can't quite pinpoint exactly what it is, but it's something that I've always I connect well there. I always meet like the friendliest people, and it's just the different lifestyles and traditions there have always really intrigued me, and particularly um, like remote and removed places, which is why I like some of the countries more, like Cambodia and Myanmar and Laos. Um, they're very, some of them are on the tourist beat, but there's sections that you can go and are very, very often. Mongolia is sort of one of those places where it's not quite as heavily touristed, and just because of the nature of the geography, that it's these giant open plains across most of the country, it lends itself to being very sparsely populated. I think it's the lowest population density of any country in the world, actually. Um, there's like 50 times as many uh, goats and cattle and sheep there as there are people. Um,
Yeah.
so it's a very remote and removed experience, and I have a particular intrigue with places that sort of have this ancient way of lifestyle that's existed for a long time, or is removed from, I guess, many of the what I know here in the Western world. It's completely opposite side of the spectrum. And it's something, I used to go hiking a lot as a kid and be interested in getting out into the wilderness, and perhaps there's perhaps some foundation in that. So Mongolia is somewhere I've been looking to visit for a while, and we just considered, like, well, I thought it would be great to really turn this into a photo book, mostly because it's a culture that is starting to hit the fringes of westernization and globalization, and definitely has come in more over the last 10 years, but especially a lot more recently, where in places of where they'd have horses moving around the cattle now, well, maybe they have a motorcycle or two as well. And whereas they haven't had any power or electricity of any sort for since the dawn of time, oh, now some families have a solar collection unit, and that's particularly addressing the nomadic families. So Ulaanbaatar is the capital, which is sort of almost a hodgepodge of Soviet era buildings and tents as well. And then about 30% roughly or more of the population still lives nomadically, which means in the summer they set up their tents, which they call gers, in one part of the uh, country or one specific region, and then in the winter they move to another time, and that's because um, they're pastoral or nomadic herders. They move where they can feed the livestock, and
Yeah.
that's their primary form of sustenance. So it's this really intriguing lifestyle and how they've developed their culture out of that, down from from what they eat to where they live, and even song and dance and cultural traditions like that all develop out of this lifestyle. So I really wanted to get in there, and I thought it would make a really interesting book project to document it as it's sort of on this cusp of modernization as they begin to acquire more luxury items, like some even have maybe a TV now, so they have a small tube TV and it's still in their tent, so they're still living where they get up and move um, seasonally, but they're adding in these other items now, and I was really intrigued by capturing that threshold moment.
That early transition. Yeah.
Yeah, and capturing some of the more traditional things before it really vanishes. I mean, like I
Yeah.
said, 30% of the population still living nomadically is a pretty huge chunk.
Yep.
Um, but it may not be long before you see it somewhere that's, well, we have some nomadic tents, but it's tourist purposes only now.
And once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah,
That's the thing about these
they don't
wonderful
backward
culture.
reverse.
No, nobody goes back. We're never going to go back to log cabins here. Never going to happen. So
Yeah. So it's the first Kickstarter I've tried. I haven't messed around with this platform before. I thought it would be an interesting way to crowdfund things. Certainly, you've got quite a bit more to go. Most of the expense in it is actually the book publication. I found a great printer out of Berkeley, California, who loves the project and is willing to work with me. But there's definitely some big startup print costs to get that going.
sure.
Um, and mostly because if I'm going to do this, I'm going to print a book that's a really nice quality, um, fine art caliber book. I don't go in for something. If I'm going to do this, I'm not going to put together a blurb book and um, fish that out. I want somewhere where I know the printing is going to be excellent, and the color and the tonality is going to be spot on, and that they're just going to bind and put together a really nice product. all told.
Yep.
So
What made you now have you been to Mongolia before?
I haven't. Again, it's just somewhere that's
Uh,
sort of always been on my radar. So I thought this would be the right pairing to
it's
try
a
that out and see if the interest was there.
and it's a tough trek to get there.
Yeah, it's quite a bit. There's a few different options. Most of them usually involve flying into Beijing and then a flight either into the capital, or you can take the Trans-Mongolian Railway from Beijing into Ulaanbaatar. I think it reverses as well. You can do it from Moscow, though it's a bit longer and more expensive in a journey. Um,
A lot
so
longer.
I'm yeah, so I'm working to get there essentially cost effectively, and um, I guess the cool part of it wasn't just going in and going for a week or two and capturing, okay, meeting a few people, capturing some portraits here, moving along in a traditional sort of editorial travel style. But with this one, I would be living with a group of families, and I'm coordinating with an organization on the ground there to help place me um, with a group of families and live with them for about 6 or 7 weeks and truly live with them, sleep in the tents, help them herd cattle and sheep, help them with daily chores of cooking and washing and all the preparation that goes into the winter preps. I'll be there at the end of summer into fall, and I think that style lends itself to a much closer look at this uh, and really being able to capture sort of those authentic day-to-day moments, and not just the nice portrait here, the nice portrait here, that work well in great editorial spread, but all the little hidden things in between that really give you an inside peek on what it would be like
It's
to
in
live
the
like this.
details. Everything's in the details.
Yeah, yeah, and because I think that amount of time, it gets you a great familiarity with the people you live with, and it gets them to sort of drop their guard about things. And you can take a few days even of not shooting any photos, even a week starting out, and just integrating and becoming part of the family and growing that trust. You have that a much longer time to be able to do that, and then picking up the camera again and really being able to get to all those little finite things that you know dive deeper into the subject than you'd normally get to.
Are you familiar with the one laptop per child project?
You know what? It sounds familiar. I'm pretty sure I've heard of it
Uh,
before, but I can't speak to it with any detail.
One of my Project 52 guys is offering to put you in touch with them through him.
Okay.
So
Yeah, that would be
I will,
fantastic.
yep, I'll just hook you and Russ up together and see if there's something there. Um, let's see. Um, how many? You said you're going to be there over a month, right?
Yeah, about 6 to 7 weeks.
6 7 weeks.
So I may live with one group of families for say 3 weeks and another for 3 weeks, or if it's a larger uh, group together, I may spend all six of it with one of them. I'm sort of playing that by ear right now, and we'll see what we get as this gets closer. Obviously, we have quite a bit of funding to go first, so
Well,
I'm
I helped you out, so
you did indeed.
and
So
I'm
we're
hoping the
and
rest of
it's
the Project 52 guys, come on, jump on there and get some involvement here. This is going to be very cool. Um,
Yeah, and then whether people can donate any a large or a small donation, every little bit helps with these Kickstarter projects. That's sort of the magic of crowdfunding. And
yep.
I tried to structure it with some value in each pledge level. Like for really simple ones, you can get desktop wallpapers up to postcards, prints, the book itself, and I tried to offer some higher levels like workshops. If it's someone who can't make it out to New York, I'm happy to do something like this, a Skype session, but more in depth where you tell me about what you're doing, show me links, we open up you know. Uh, FTP sites and go through files and check about how your post processing is working and what I do and what I look for in capture, um, than to an actual boots on the ground one here in New York.
Sure.
I I wanted to offer one in Mongolia itself, and I think that's still an option, but it's definitely cost cost prohibitive. It's quite expensive to do it. We could find a way to make it happen, but I didn't feel like I wasn't going to toss that up on the Kickstarter page. But certainly, if anyone says, "Hey, I've got a bunch of free cash and I'd love to come to Mongolia and spend a week with you," then just send me an email and it's something we can talk about. But you know,
Fantastic. Yeah, boy, that would be really, really cool. Are you a member of ASMP there in New York?
I'm not. I was initially involved with them. And I don't want to say anything negative, but it was just um, it just wasn't the right fit for me now per se.
Okay.
But I definitely think they do some good work here and there, and they help with a lot of cool educational events. Just some of the personalities I haven't worked well with.
Okay. Well, that's fair.
But I do think, yeah, I mean, again, some of those organizations like that provide a nice base of knowledge. What I would say is don't think of them as a help up in getting you a client. Like that's going to come strictly and solely from you, and it's your drive and your effort to get work. They're good when they provide a nice network base to talk with other peers, um, perhaps discuss trends you've seen, but I guess look at them as it can be a nice community. But I guess my community avenues I've explored with either other organizations or other people, and you can't divert attention too many ways.
I have a question here from Tucker, and this is, I'm sure, every photographer, we always get this question. What's in Matt's bag?
Yeah. Um, I shoot mostly with Nikon systems, particularly the D800 with travel. I like the large file sizes. I like the expanded dynamic range on it, the color set, and then per job, it'll really vary. On travel work, I try to have um, a few different zooms, a few different primes, and that just helps sort of cover all the bases and what I think the situation merits. Certain editorials or certain jobs, I will carry one set of lenses over another. Like if I'm shooting something that I know is very food heavy, I might want to switch into more of a macro lens. Um, but if I know I'm covering a lot of general scenics, the 24 to 70 is probably going to be my baby. Or if I'm shooting a portrait, I may have, an 85 with me, or I may use the 70 to 200. It really varies. Um, I would say at the onset of any trip, judge what you think you're going to be shooting the most of, what gives you the most flexibility, and obviously what fits within your overall budget.
Yep. Well, I used to carry a ton of lenses, and I'm pared way down now.
Yeah,
So
I try to keep it basically as light as possible while making sure I have everything I can have to get the job covered.
we just did a road trip up into Zion and Bryce here, and over the holidays, I acquired a Nikon DF,
Hmm.
and so I'm a Canon shooter. I've got a big investment in Canon, but I just love this Nikon camera. So the thought of getting a whole nother component of big lenses just didn't work for me. Plus, why? I
Sure.
mean, it's so I've got four lenses for it. I've got the 28 2.8, the 35 f2, the 51.8, and the 85 1.8. All of them are old AF lenses that work
Ah,
perfectly on it. And the camera and four lenses fits in a shoulder bag that's smaller than my daughter's purse.
see, that's great.
I really
She
like
allows
that.
Yeah, it gives you, I mean, on a lot of these travel assignments, trust me, after a while, you really start feeling those heavier lenses after traveling around all day.
Yep.
Um, because there's no part of it, I mean, I'm up hours before sunrise usually. If sunrise is 6 o'clock and I feel like I need to get somewhere further away, I'm up at 4 o'clock and out and moving and transporting somewhere to be in the right spot when I need to for sunrise.
Yeah, and you're out after sunset because you're catching the sunset. So you're on
Yeah.
location when the sun goes down. Yeah, it's a tough life. It's a fun,
Yeah.
exciting thing, but it will wear on you physically. You've got to stay
Uh,
in physically good condition.
yeah, I mean, travel editorial work especially is very go go go. You have a very limited time to work with because you're working within condensed budgets, and you need to come up with the best lighting and best moments possible throughout the entire time. So yeah, I'm up for. I mean, this 2 month trip around Southeast Asia, I wasn't up for every single sunrise, but just about. So you're always up for the best light, and then midday, if I'm close to being back to my hotel, I might go and take a midday break, dump files, take a quick hour nap, or I might be going around and looking to shoot shaded things, portraits inside, food inside, market scenes, things like that. And then when the light is nice again, back out for it. And into night sometimes to, in that first half an hour or so after sunset, you can still get that blue sky but nice lighted up shot.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to hope that everybody on the broadcast lets folks know about your Kickstarter project,
Yeah,
and
I mean,
tweet it
the
and
the more
Facebook
the
it,
more
and
the more eyeballs, the better. That has the better chance of success. So yeah, if hopefully if you guys think it's a worthwhile project, you'll consider pledging and spreading the word. It's got a good chunk to go, but I've got some I guess behind the scenes or money that hasn't come in yet from a few different sources that's gonna dump into there. So get us a little closer to the goal, and every little bit counts to get there.
are you going to be doing any audio recording there just for yourself, or
I'll keep a journal of things,
okay?
especially for note taking to put into the book, specifically to pair with different photos, people's names, what exactly they might have been doing, just in small annotations on the side. It'll be mostly a photo book, but I'll definitely have some areas where there'll be personal notes or thoughts from me along the way. Um, it'll be somewhat tough because I'll be with people who probably won't speak much or any English.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I mean it's 6 weeks of you're embedded somewhere, and yeah, we won't be able to communicate fluently. So, but that's always part of the challenge, and I'm pretty good with picking up words here and there and getting basic communication across. You just have to be out of necessity.
Well, it sounds like a heck of a project, Matt, and I I I really hope that this goes for you, and it becomes a real pinnacle for all the
No,
hard
thanks, Tom.
work that you've done in the last 5 years to get from where you were to where you are. You deserve it, no doubt about it. So,
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's a passion project, and
yep,
those things those are the favorite things you love doing.
yep. And I have a feeling you're going to be in Mongolia. So,
Well, let's hope
what?
so.
How do you charge your batteries over there? Do they have like little rechargers on the yaks or something?
No, well, that's again, that's part of like so what some of the costs in it is. I need to go out and purchase a portable solar system.
Ah,
Um, so there's trekking companies that make portable solar packs and chargers, and I guess that's the nice part of it being the land of the blue skies the time. So I'll have a portable solar unit with me that I'll be charging up every day and recharging my gear off of it that way, so I can still be practicing good habits on the road. Obviously, charging camera batteries, but backing up images onto a laptop and external drives as well.
excellent.
Yep.
Matt, thank you. Thank you so much for spending an hour with us here on lighting essentials. It's been very, very interesting, and everybody is writing in saying thank you to Matt. Thanks, Matt,
Oh, thanks, Don. Thanks, everyone.
for being here, and what a great experience, and what a great amount of knowledge you have. I would love to talk to you when you get back.
Yeah, and if anyone has questions in the interim, they're more than welcome to email me. You can find my email on my website under the About page, and when I have time, I'm bouncing around a little at the end of this week, but I always try to answer any questions
Well, there you go.
I can.
Well, thank you so much, my friend. And I will actually, you know what I'm going to do?
Thank you.
I'm going to end the webinar, but you stay on. All right. And
All right.
all right. Thanks everybody for being here.
Goodbye, everyone. Thank you.
And let's see if I can do it this way.